Mercedes had another really bad weekend in Suzuka, where they only got 7th and 9th place in some of the things. Lewis Hamilton said on the radio show us exactly where the team is right now in the 2024 season with a 7-time world champion being the nicest teammate ever and letting Russell go by, but the plans still weren't helping him, which made him send a very angry message. And after all of the crazy stuff calmed down and Lewis only got 2 points from this race, the big question is this where the 7-time world champion will say enough is enough, and has he stopped trying to win with Mercedes? It was another painful race for Lewis Hamilton in Suzuka, one that the fans hoped he could escape from since the practice sessions looked pretty good with the cool track temperatures and everyone thought they wouldn't change much during the actual race. But after starting in 7th place and beating his teammate in qualifying for the first time this season, Hamilton once again couldn't finish better than Russell, ending up in 9th place and only getting 2 points for his team while his younger teammate got a better 6th place finish right behind Alonso. Lewis Hamilton tried a plan that didn't work out for him, and after the red flag on the first lap of the race, Mercedes was looking at a real chance to actually get good points because of the clouds covering the track and making it cooler. That's why both of them switched to the hard tires during this time. And when they got back on the track, the speed just wasn't there, which is why Hamilton offered to let Russell go by and be the ultimate team player. Hamilton explained that letting Russell pass was something he thought about carefully at the beginning of the race. The 7-time world champion thought he got damage after bumping into Charles Leclerc and had huge problems with the car not turning properly in the first tire run. So he couldn't turn the car right in any of the corners, which was the main reason why Hamilton decided to let his teammate go by and make the team plan work better than his own race. But when it became clear that the car shaking wouldn't get better and that they would be fighting for small points, Hamilton's anger was pretty easy to see when he told Bono to change the plan because what they had originally thought up was definitely not going to work. Hamilton also talked about how the car performed with different tires, saying the hard tire was pretty bad and the medium tire was much better. So looking back, it seems like we should have used 2 medium tires. But overall, the car was pretty bad today. The interesting thing we need to mention here is that Hamilton is the one who actually offered to let Russell go ahead because he was the slower driver for Mercedes, which is not very easy to admit if you're Hamilton with all his wins. But a few laps later, it became clear that the speed wasn't there, and the plan that Mercedes had in mind needed to be changed. So after Hamilton's angry message, Mercedes only did half of what he wanted. They called him into the pits and they still put a hard tire on the car, even though it was proving to be quite hard to keep up the pace with, which could have hurt Hamilton's chances of having a better weekend. This is something that he questioned right after getting out of the pit stop, asking why he lost so much time too. And when talking about the overall plan for Hamilton and Russell, Mercedes went on to explain their choice in more detail, saying with our tire choices, we were able to give ourselves the chance of looking at either 1 or 2 stops after the red flag, which is why we used the hard tire restart. As the race went on, the tire wearing showed that the 2-stop was going to be the fastest way to the finish. Our second and third runs showed solid speed compared to those around us. We knew that Suzuka would not be our strongest track though, and with time lost being passed and the different strategy, we couldn't make it back to 6th place, which was probably the best we could do today. Now, even if everything went Hamilton and Mercedes' way, the fact that they were hoping for a 6th place finish as the best they could do in this race shows that things are far from perfect in the Silver Arrows team. Lewis Hamilton has talked about his wants and needs from the car, and after being pretty happy with what the engineers have done for this weekend, the speed has suddenly disappeared and he found himself in no man's land. All he could have done after the race was laugh after barely getting any points. And for him to continue the season like this with the team that he achieved so much with in the past 11 years is pretty embarrassing to say the least, not to mention the fact that he's now saying out loud that he is the slower driver, and so he's very unlikely to be the main focus in planning or team choices for the rest of the season. But if we listen to Toto Wolff, the Austrian boss is pretty happy with what they have done here in Japan, which is quite different from what the seven-time world champion had to say about this. Adding that Wolff said the experiments have worked and we have a clear direction even though the qualifying and racing results don't show it at all. We aimed for a one-stop and then realized it wasn't possible, probably being too careful with the tires. From the moment we picked up the speed and similar run lengths, we were competitive. We have a much better understanding of the car and lots more information that points us in the right direction even if it's not shown in the results. I can't wait to go racing in Shanghai. We just need a better start of the weekend and see what we can do with the car. The direction and information are one thing, but at the end of the day, it's the results that matter. And if Lewis and Russell are not getting what they want from the car, then it's bound to happen that the worry will start to grow in Russell's camp too, because he obviously did not sign up to be the sixth fastest driver on the grid with so much competition coming from McLaren and Aston Martin. Quite honestly, McLaren are in third place now and quite ahead of Mercedes, so the only competition the Silver Arrows have right now is Aston Martin, which would be different if Lance Stroll had a bit better understanding of how to get the most out of the car. Like what Alonso does. What is even worse news for Mercedes is that they're getting close to a time when they would have to stop the development talks with the seven-time world champion about the 2024 season. And when talking about this matter, Hamilton opened up about how this is very likely to happen sooner rather than later, unlike in 2009 at McLaren when these talks happen at the end of the year. He explained that at some point I will have to start the conversation with Toto. I have never been in this position at this time of the year. When I was leaving McLaren, it was towards the end of the season, and I had my first meeting at Mercedes after the season was done. I'm not quite sure how to handle it, but right now I want to finish on a high. So all my energy is going into this. Of course, there is excitement for the future. Right now we're going through a difficult time, and that is my challenge. And all my energy is going to try and figure out how we can get ourselves back on top. The top, however, has changed a lot compared to a couple of years ago. And right now we cannot help but notice that Mercedes is really looking like a middle-of-the-pack team, with them being nowhere near close to the top three teams and in a very close fight with Aston Martin for fifth place. Even so, if we add the lack of Hamilton's input towards where the car would go with certain upgrades and development paths, this season is slowly shaping up to be one of the worst ones that the seven-time world champion had to go through in his career. Not to mention the fact that it will be his teammate who will be in charge for the rest of the season, because he will be the one who will have a big say in where the team decides to go with that car, something that has been quite questionable in the past couple of years, if we must add. With all this in mind, do you think that Mercedes has what it takes to end the season in a good way? And more importantly, do you think that Lewis has already given up on trying to be a better driver at Mercedes, even though that goes against his values and ways as a driver and a committed member of the Silver Arrows? Let us know in the comments below.